Let's just get started. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me in Dreams. I'm Young Text YouTube and Dreams, Young Text on YouTube and Young Text on Twitch. My channel playlist has individual tutorials on logic, sculpting, animation, music, and more if you are interested. Let's just get started. Pull out a trigger zone. Don't make the trigger zone too high, as in overreaching the pool of water. And I'm using Eclipse, I think. That was easier for me. And make sure that it also goes through the bottom of the water. There's nothing inside of this pool. It's like air. The only thing in here is actually the trigger zone and the keyframe. The blanket of water is just a painting. It's just a blanket that's actually just on top, nowhere else. Next, pull out a keyframe. Have this keyframe changed in an advanced mover inside of your Puppet microchip. You'll put it there to 1.2, then have this up all the way. You shouldn't need this on local space. Put that from the detect settings into the power. Have this keyframe on label. Detect whatever you make your puppet. I labeled mine friend. And if you're having troubles with it detecting, change these two to this. From these to these. And I have mine on cylinder, not Eclipse. So whenever your player is detected, the keyframe changes this to 1.2. Whenever you are detected, that keyframe also turns off this node that allows you to jump traditionally. The X button is inside of this node's input, the output's inside of the jump. It turns off the power for it, that keyframe that detects you. That keyframe also turns on the power for a timeline. This is your swim animation. Program that. Down here, make a keyframe. What this keyframe does, you'll want to press L1 and square on your puppet. Open this up. What this keyframe is doing is turning off your procedural walk, and it can also turn off this. I have the keyframe that's in the water turning off that one, but you can just have one turn off both if you want to. Before the game even starts, turn off auto look and turn this down all the way. The reason why you want a keyframe that turns off these two is so that way they're not getting in the getting in the way of the animations that you make. What these are, you'll see microchips inside of here. The run, jump, animation, all that stuff, microchips, the follower and the level complete thing. And that's what this stuff is. You can either delete it and make your own, or you can power off the microchips themselves and this. If you're having trouble with it, try powering off those microchips with the keyframes that power off these. I do believe I have this set at 0.8 automatically. We will check in this tutorial. Now that we have our swim animations done and everything else explained, pull out a NOT gate. Put the X button into the import and the output into a keyframe. If you are not pressing X, this lowers down your swim speed animation, making it appear like an idle animation. An idle animation with slower kicks. If you are pressing or holding X, then it will move at normal speed. The keyframe in the water is what turns that on. It should be on sustain. So if you are pressing X, it just moves at normal speed. And since that keyframe in the water is what's keeping this on, then it should keep on going. I have in trigger into restart timeline. This keyframe is also changing this to negative 0.8. So keep this at 0 at the beginning of the game. It's this keyframe that's making it negative 0.8 right now because we are not pressing X. But if we are, then it changes to 1.2 because we are in the water, I do believe. We'll check that and double check that at the end of the tutorial, near the end. This timeline's for when we jump out of the water. We'll explain that soon. Next, put the detected into the B of an AND gate. Put the X button into the A of an AND gate. Whenever you press X and you are detected, it powers on this advanced mover. Whenever you press X, it changes to 1.2. You can mess around with that as you please. Now, pull out a calculator, distance from ground into the A. You'll want to mess with this for yours. It really just does depend on how big or how long the length of your pull is to get to the bottom. Put the result into A and the result into B. Whenever you are on the inside the water but you're on top of it, sort of like around here, this makes you jump out. The result of this, what this result is plugged into, it is plugged into a keyframe. It is plugged into the jump. And it is also plugged into a timeline. This is the animation to jump out of the water. What this does, this keyframe that is your jump animation, it changes your animation for your puppet into more of a leap. It also keeps this advanced mover on. It is set to once, and you can mess around with the speed. The result is also well, it seems like that's all it's in. Let me open up the timeline real quick and double check. The result is also in the power of this keyframe. You might not want that. Try deleting this or not adding it, but add it if you need to. This keyframe keeps this on. Keeps that timeline on. This keyframe changes this to 10.3, and the reason it's not in the timeline is because we only want it to happen whenever we are first jumping out of the water. That way we don't start flying. That's why it's connected to the result, because the result will only send off once, which is also why we need a keyframe to keep this on power for whenever this raises up. So whenever you are out of the water, you want to make sure that this is at 0. So that way you don't keep on flying. This makes sure whenever you're finally in the air, you're jumped out by 10.3 speed. So that way it's enough of a leap to where whenever you are out of the water and this is set to 0, it doesn't matter. The result for this is also in the jump. You may not need that. The node X in here, and then the X, or the input of the node into the jump, we add a node. The detected keyframe inside of the water should be the thing that's turning that off, and I should have explained the NOT gate. When you are on ground, make it to where this powers off, not on keep changes. Not on ground. Connect that to a keyframe. With that keyframe, press L1 and X and record turning off the power for this. Or when you're on ground, sorry, on ground. I do believe I made it to where this keyframe might turn off the procedural walk. I also want to make it to where this keyframe turns off the power for your swimming animation. You might not want to do that before we actually test out to see what that does. Let's go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. Then we'll test out some tweaks. I have it on Force Possess. Looking good. As you could see, there's stuff like that can happen. That's just the animation glitching. And if stuff like that happens, you just need to fix up your animations to where that doesn't happen. That's all that is. What you can do, if you need to, use a gyroscope. Also, I'm going to press L1 and square and show you guys some stuff you can mess with. With the keyframes, that you can put a keyframe in your swim animation up here. Inside of here. I also want to say, well, no, don't do that. But with this keyframe right here, you can mess with the springiness, the arm flail, the breathlessness, and the center of gravity. You also want to make it to where whenever you're in the water, there's a keyframe that makes you move slower and turn speed a little bit slower also. And you also want to make it to where your gravity is turned down with the keyframe that's in the water. And that's this keyframe. It also raises the air control. And if you want to make it to where you're slightly dropping, make a keyframe that lowers this to like the Y to like -0.8. And you can put that into the detected settings. You can use that detected keyframe that's in the water if you want to. But this seems to be working. It seems to be working. If you want to try pressing L1 and X in between here, that may fix some of your animations. I have an envelope right here. Just make your animations as you see fit. And the jumping force, whenever you're jumping out of the water, can also mess with the animations if they're not done properly. So this usually only happens with the puppet. But just in case, I wanted to explain that. And that jitteriness right there that you saw, that could be the swim animation. So make it to where you can try making it to where this turns off this swim animation. You can also make it to where there's an on switch in the beginning that resets the swim animation, restarts it whenever you hop out of the water. If I left anything out, let me know in the comment section below. Follow me in Dreams on Young Text YouTube and Dreams, Young Text on YouTube, and Young Text on Twitch. Subscribe, follow, check my channel playlist for individual tutorials on logic, sculpting, animation, music, and more. I have this set to this and this, and I think I explained the microchips. You can power those off with the animations that power off the procedural walk and procedural animations. Any microchip that is the jump, run, follow, anything that was over here. And there's keyframes that mess with stuff inside of here. As you can see, you can mess with that as you please. This is for when you jump out of the water. When you jump out of the water, this keyframe keeps this on and keeps this on. And make sure that's not powering the swim animation on. You want to make sure it powers it off, if anything. Yeah. So there you guys go. Don't forget to subscribe. If I left anything out, if you're confused, let me know in the comment section below. Peace out.